important. Japan and China, of course, are important in this mix. And so the thing that would help the developing world the most is strong growth in the developed world. That means the working capital for small businesses. I'm worried that as the central banks have a mismatch of their maturity, it doesn't provide the working capital at the short end for growth by small businesses, which is one of the critical job engines. We're trying to do that in the developing world through the IFC. That's part of the World Bank. The International Finance Corporation is providing directly working capital lines of credit to keep small businesses open so that they can be ready for a recovery.
Well, as you know, so many of those developing nations, especially in Asia, depend on a strong China. Has China contained the virus?
I don't know about the virus. I know I can't comment on that. But one thing I do take note of that's going on in the world is in many previous crises, the currencies have moved a lot, have been one of the weak points. But in this particular crisis, the major currencies have been steadier than in the past, and I think that's a very good sign. One of the things I worked on when I was in the U.S. administration was the importance of the stability of currencies, and that's been in the communiques of the G20 and of the IMF communiques, and so far that's been a source of some small part of stability in this crisis, and I welcome that.
I wonder if your views have changed at all since going from the administration to the World Bank, which is so much more globally focused. There is this realization now that we are so dependent on the global supply chain and on China for critical things like pharmaceuticals and like medical equipment and supply, and whether that should be changed. What's your view on that, and has it evolved?
Well, these are very important questions of how extended do you want your supply chains to be, and how interrelated to countries around the world. What systems do you want to be vital from your security standpoint, from your supply line standpoint? And so I think the world needs to think about what's the most effective system to be efficient from an economic standpoint, and also to be balanced from a security standpoint. So at the World Bank, one of the things that I stress is the importance of trade facilitation and the ability of supply chains to adjust to the changing circumstances. That means countries have to allow a dynamic process for their supply chains, because sometimes special interests try to stop that kind of change. And so we have to let markets actually function even during the crisis now, and be ready for the rebound phase on the next side.
Should the U.S. relax some of the tariffs that are in place against China and other countries in the middle of this global recession?
I don't know about that, but I favor markets that function and are open, and that invite new suppliers when those can be brought in. And I think there is value clearly in having suppliers close to home, but I think there's also very great value in having China having had growth over the last 20 years or so, really starting in 1978. It's been one of the gainers in the world in terms of alleviating poverty, and that also is welcome. And I noted earlier, China's participating in this debt moratorium on debt service, and they're one of the biggest creditors in the world now, and so it's very welcome for the world to see China participating in that.
David Malpass, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate the update on the efforts from the World Bank.
Nice to be on. Thanks.
All right, meantime, Sarah, the sell-off remains in place here, Dow down about 600. When we come back, we'll talk with American Airlines' Doug Parker about this historic agreement in principle with Treasury for industry aid in the airline business. Back in a moment.
Real-time exchange sector sort is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs. Visit them on the web at sectorspiders.com.
Some trends are so influential, they can move entire sectors of the market. Take the price of oil. It has the potential to impact the performance of all energy companies. So why continue to take single stock risk? The Energy Sector Spider ETF offers the diversification of the entire energy sector while reducing single stock risk. The Energy Sector Spider, the next chapter in investing. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Go to sectorspiders.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully.
Consistency can deliver on investment goals. Columbia Threadneedle Investments.
Sometimes the challenges of today's world make it tough to take care of yourself. That's why you can rely on Nature's Bounty to give you the support you need to stay motivated, keep active, and sleep well. Add a little more health to your day with Nature's Bounty.
Squawk Box, global market moves, crucial breaking news, flattening the COVID curve.
Where do you think we'll be a month from now?
Your health, your money, your future. Squawk Box, 6 a.m. Eastern. Watch and listen live on the CNBC app.
Welcome back. I'm Rahel Solomon. Stocks moving lower today with, as you can see, every sector in negative territory. Now, outperforming the market just slightly is the communication services sector. So among the leaders in that group are some of the gaming stocks, Activision, Blizzard, and Take-Two Interactive. We also see electronic arts outperforming, though hovering between positive and negative territory, now up about 0.25% or 0.5% there. Also, a notable move in Netflix today, trading at all-time highs amid a flurry of positive analyst commentary. Pivotal Research giving the stock a new street high price target of $490. Now, Netflix was already on a tear, up 15% so far this week. You can see it's up almost 4% now. Carl, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Rahel, thank you very much. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Squawk Alley. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Morgan Brennan and Dom Chu. As we watch this sell-off take off some of those one-month highs we got yesterday, the data rolling in showing a much fuller impact of the COVID-19 crisis during the month of March. Retail sales, industrial production, and the banks not helping. Neither is oil. We're going to start this hour, though, with our own Phil LeBeau and a very special guest, the CEO of American Airlines, Doug Parker. Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Carl. Let's bring in Doug from the headquarters of American Airlines in Fort Worth, Texas. Doug, you guys reached an agreement in principle with the Treasury Department on the payroll grants for $5.8 billion. How much will this tide you over, at least in the near term, to ensure that the payroll can be met, so to speak?
Yeah, look, Phil, it's great news. It's great news for American. It's great news for our customers and our team. It's great news for the industry. We certainly, last time I talked to you, we were in the middle of negotiating this, and we went through some tough times in getting through it, but we're really just elated to have
Good morning, everybody. We'll start in a couple minutes.
Morning, Brandon.
Morning, Devo.
Morning, Aaron.
Morning. Okay, everybody. Good morning. Let's begin. Hope everybody is well today, and you're holding up well as we are at the midweek of this another quarantine week here at the University of Laverne. First off, today I want to talk about give you this is posted in Blackboard under your writing assignment file folder. It's just some places to look at. What I did is I took the top 5 or 6 questions that most of our students selected in the paper topics, and I listed a couple of sources, not the only sources you should look at, but sources that might be of some interest to you in selecting those questions. And I posted these to Blackboard, and I just want to go over them a little bit, what was my thinking on why I gave some of these selections for research opportunities. Our most popular question selected by our class was question number 1 on the diversity in the workplace. And one of the places to start on that, it's a place that you're familiar with, in other words, the community of the University of Laverne, is perhaps go to the University of Laverne HR website and the section in the areas there that talk about diversity in the workplace at the University of Laverne. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. About 10 years ago, diversity in the workplace of Laverne was like a dirty word. Nobody paid attention to diversity in the workplace at Laverne. Well, about 4 or 5 lawsuits later, now they're paying attention to it. So this is a very important topic now. We have a Title IX coordinator. Title IX, remember, is the law that talks about diversity in the workplace, equal rights, equal representation. The whole outlook of the HR, the Human Resources Office of the University of Laverne, has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, and now it's run very well. I think we have good diversity in the workplace, and areas where we don't have diversity in the workplace, for example, we have very few Afro-American professors. We have very few Afro-American leaders, managers, staff. And that's an area that the University of Laverne is lacking in, and hopefully, I'm not too involved in this process, but are working on to alleviate that. But our own website is a good place if you selected that question number 1 as a place to start. Also, there's a very good article from Forbes magazine. Forbes magazine is a business publication in August of 2018 about workplace diversity, why so important. That's a very good article you should read to give you some background. The next most popular question in our paper topics was the retirement plans, naturally. And I was glad to see this. You know, retirement is probably a long way away from some of your minds, but also we have quite a few students who are, if not working or close to working full time, and retirement planning should be a part of their personal finance. Well, there's a couple of interesting places to go to begin with that for question number 12. One is U.S. News and World Report, which is a magazine publication in December of 2019, had a very good piece on retirement plans you should consider in the modern, right up to date. And that is a good article as a place to start looking at all the different types of formats and functions of retirement plans. Another one is to just go to a popular investment brokerage or investment management firm's website and look at how they handle retirement planning. And a good one to start is the largest, Vanguard Funds. Vanguard Funds website is a good source of looking at retirement plans. The next selected question was question number 2, which had to do with small business. What are the characteristics of small business? And we have at the University of Laverne, right underneath our noses, a very good small business company site that is sponsored in part by the University of Laverne. The rest of it is sponsored by the Small Business Administration, and its director is Mr. Sean Snyder. You should go to that website for the University of Laverne Small Business, and also you should try to interview Mr. Sean Snyder. He would be more than willing to talk to you and explain to you how small business, what are the characteristics. This is very important these days when small business people are the ones who are going out of business. I just heard this morning on the news on CNBC that basically most of the small businesses in America have about 2 to 3 months of cash left. After that, it's bye-bye. Where major American corporations have quite a bit of cash and they're getting big bailouts. Small businesses, that's quite one of the controversies of the CARES Act, the money authorized by the government, $2.5 trillion to be allocated, is how small business is going to get funding out of that. That might be a very important topic to address with Mr. Snyder. Another popular question in our class was mortgage financing. One of the places to start is to go to any major banking site and look up their procedures of mortgage financing. Now, again, this has changed dramatically over the last couple of weeks with the economy. Interest rates are cheap, but also credit levels. FICO scores are going to be dropping over the next couple of months of possible mortgage financing, and that could play a part in the rates and the availability of money. Any major banking site would be a good place for that. And also there's some very good and excellent YouTube videos. If you type in mortgage financing in YouTube, there's some very good videos about that. Another popular question was about insurance. Again, some very good YouTube videos in regards to that in YouTube, modern, up-to-date about insurance. And also go to any major insurance website, Allstate, Geico, UBS, any type, Prudential, any type of major insurance carrier, go to their site. They have some very good and sophisticated information about insurance. And finally, question number 4 was about globalization. This is a very important topic now with the way the economy and the world economy is going. It was announced today by the International Monetary Fund that we are in a global recession and it will continue for at least 2 quarters. That is the largest time period for a recession and hopefully not a depression since the 1930s. We're in for a dramatic change in our economy, and which you guys all are going to be a part of. And there's a great article by the Peterson Institute. It's called PIIE. It's called What is Globalization? Go to Google, search for that article on what is globalization. That is an excellent article explaining globalization in today's economy. Very, very good. We have some other types of questions being asked, I mean, by small amount of students, but most of them tie into either financing, retirement, lending, and which a lot of these sites in this document will help you. So again, use this document to start off with, looking at information to go to center on where you might be interested in about your topic. This outline is again in your writing assignment file folder in Blackboard. It'll be a good source to start your paper and a good source to get up-to-date information about your paper. So take a look at it over the next couple of weeks as we get to the end of May. And it's hard to believe we're now in mid-April. Oh, by the way, today's April 15th, tax day. If this was Professor Hassey in a normal environment, I'd be looking like death warmed over on tax day, doing all my tax returns and friends' tax returns. But this year, we don't have to pay our taxes and don't have to file our returns till July, which is kind of fun. So today is happy non-tax day, I guess you could call it. So that's our paper outlines. We have roughly about 6 weeks, 5 weeks left of our class to the end of May or the middle of May. And that's when the paper is due. So start maybe pulling some of this data together and looking at it and gather some information to help you. This is a good source of your paper. Okay, let's move on. Let me just take a quick look at who's here today. Make sure I note all that. Where's Palm today? Palm is not with us. Uh-oh, hope everything's okay. All right. Okay, let's bring up this. On page 341 of your textbook is a couple of problems that are you'll probably see again in examination 2 next week. And it talks about the ways of calculating how much insurance I should have or not have. And these are problems on page 341. I want to look over these, a couple of areas. Remember, we talked about last week the various methods of calculating insurance. And one of those methods are, and here's a shot from that from our textbook, is the methods of calculating insurance, how much you have. It's called the dual income method, called DINK, the non-working spouse method, the family method, and also there's an easy method. I guess you could call that as a family method. The easy method of determining how much insurance you should need. We talked about this on Monday. One of the great mysteries of life, that's kind of strange. One of the great mysteries of life is, well, once I start working, once I start making some money, once I start becoming a valuable economic asset in my life, how should I avoid the risk of loss of that economic asset myself and get insurance? How do I calculate how much insurance I should need? Well, there's a lot of that is driven by the lost income, the lost assets that you might have. And so page 341 is some problems to talk about that, to explain it, to see it, and let's bring up those problems again. For example, you are the wage earner in a typical family with $40,000 gross annual income. Geez, must live in North Dakota. $40,000 gross national income or annual income. Use the easy method to determine how much insurance coverage you should carry. Use the easy method to determine how much insurance cover you should carry. If your salary is $40,000, if you should die, how do you make sure your family is covered by that loss of that income? All right. Well, let's bring up another screen here. going to get a little bit more sophisticated today. We're going to bring up a whiteboard. So here's a little whiteboard. So let's say I do make $40,000 a year in gross income. If I have $40,000 a year in gross income, that's how much, if I die, I'm going to have to replace. Well, the typical easy method is to take that calculation as taking 70% of your gross income, 70%, and then multiplying it by 7 years. Take 70% of your income and then multiplying it by 7 years. And that's how much insurance you should have. So the formula is insurance need equals your income, annual income, times 0.70, which is 70%, times 7 years. Now, why 7 years? Why? What brilliant scholar figured that one out? Well, it so happens that if you should die, and this is kind of weird, and if you have a family, and if you have a typical family, maybe 1 or 2 children or whatever, and a wife, or your wife and your spouse, husband and your wife, a lot of women now need life insurance a lot more than men. But if you should die, you're going to be able, it'll take roughly about 7 years of the family to recuperate from your death. That's the general thinking. It'll take about 7 years to get over, first of all, the shock of the death, and then reestablish their financial well-being, maybe get a new job, again, remarry, find another partner, whatever. It's just estimated by the insurance industry that it takes about 7 years to get back on your feet. So if I use this easy method to determine my insurance need, I take 70% of 40,000, that's $28,000. I multiply that times 7 years. We take our little calculator out and multiply 28,000 by 7 years, we get $196,000. Roughly around $200,000 of life insurance coverage, all right? That's using the easy method. So you base it on your income and you base it on an insurance industry calculation of you really need about 7 years of cash to make the family well again, should you or should your partner or your spouse die. And that's called the easy method. It's very simple. It's driven by a couple of assumptions. 70% of your gross income times 7 years. Now, why 70%? I do not have an answer for that. And I looked that up last night and I could not find an answer that satisfied me and why they picked 70. But again, that's one of the calculations used in the insurance industry. So again, so if I'm right out of college and I get a job roughly in the $40,000 range or whatever, and I decide to get a job and I start working, how much insurance should I get, especially depending on if I have a family or some responsibilities? Julio has a chat. Is the 70% based on because of all the deductions from gross pay? Yes, but I don't typically agree with that. That's what the textbook says, but I don't particularly agree with that. I think you should just use your whole base salary, because the person, once you start drawing on that insurance, that in the future, you're going to have to pay taxes anyways. So yes, I think it's probably somewhat driven by that, but as just my own private opinion, I don't agree with that, but that's what the insurance company, 70% probably includes taxes, probably includes, I don't know, even some type of deduction for inflation or value or where you live. I really don't know, but that can be a decent answer to that question, Julio, is that it does include taking into account taxes and deductions. So again, if I'm starting out and I get a job and I have a responsibility, like I'm getting married, or I'm living with somebody, or I have responsibilities in my family, I might get insurance to protect my life equal to that based on using this easy method. And in some respects, it works out pretty good for most people. So you just start out. Now, naturally, if you're just starting out, we talked about this on Monday. $200,000 of life insurance is pretty expensive if you want to get a whole life or a universal life policy. Remember, that's the investment form of insurance. But if you want to get a term insurance, if you're just starting out, $200,000 of life insurance is fairly cheap these days for a term insurance policy. So this gives you something to start on, and you go to an insurance broker or you go to an insurance website and say, I'd like to get approximately $200,000 of insurance. What is it going to cost me? They have tables there that indicate what that cost would be, either in a term policy where you just pay premiums and get the insurance if you die, nothing else, or a whole life or universal life policy if you decide to invest in that insurance plan where you get life insurance, plus they also invest your premiums as a form of return, like in the form of an annuity or a form of investment later on in your life as the money you have put in. So that's question number one. Easy method. And a lot of us, when I first got out of college, umpteen thousand years ago, that's the method I used to determine my insurance. It really was. It was that simple. I didn't know anything else about my value in life. And I used that method because it was recommended to me by my brother-in-law, who happened to be, naturally, an insurance salesman. So he gave me that method, and it kind of stuck. And here I am teaching personal finance umpteen thousand years later, and they're still using this method as an easy way to determine your insurance needs. Let's look at another one. Brandon, just give me a thumbs up. You see the problems on your screen? Thank you. Okay. Brandon's the first face I see, so he can be making sure I've got all these up on the screen. Last 2 nights ago, I taught a class and went through a whole lecture of PowerPoints, and my students didn't say anything. First of all, for half of the lecture, my microphone wasn't working, and for the second half of the lecture, it was not on the screen, and nobody pointed that out to me. They're just staring there, looking at me for 45 minutes.
Are you talking about the problem that you just did, Professor Hasse?
Yes.
Yeah, the one you just did, I could see it, yes.
Okay. Can you see the title of the slide called Problems?
No, that's not up.
All right, see, there you go. See, that's what I need to see. Okay, that's fine. Let's straighten that out here. See, this happened to me the other night. I'm going on and on. I must have looked like a total idiot. All right, now you see that. Okay. Let's look at question number 2. All right, question number 2. Let me move there we go. You and your spouse are in good health and have reasonably secure careers. Now you're married and each of you makes $40,000 annually. You own a home with a mortgage of $80,000. Boy, again, you must live in North Dakota. And you owe $15,000 on car loans, $5,000 in personal debts, $4,000 on credit card loans. You have no other debts. You have no plans to increase the size of your family in the near future. Assume funeral expenses of $10,000. Now I know you live in North Dakota. If this was Southern California, we're looking at $30,000. Estimate your total insurance needs using the DINK method. Dual income, no children. Dual income, no children. The DINK method. It's just you and your wife, or you and your partner, you and your spouse. Now remember, you do not have to be married to be a beneficiary or to set a beneficiary in an insurance policy. You can set them as partners. You can set them as family. You can set them any way you want to do it. We're very open about that in insurance programs. You can the beneficiary can be just a person you select. That's not even related, you're not married or anything, you select as the beneficiary into a policy. That's the way it is now. Okay, so here we have 2 people who are working. They're making $80,000 a year total, but they have debts. All right, they have responsibilities: mortgage, car loans, personal debts, which could be student loans, credit card loans. They have all these debts, and if should one of those individuals die, how much insurance should they, as a couple, receive? what should they do? And this gets a little bit more complicated when you have children, and that's question number 3. But it gets fairly simple if you're just you and your spouse. Now, a lot of days, a lot of people don't start having children until they're into 30s, and they establish some financial history. So if you're just starting out, you have a loan, you have some responsibilities, what type of insurance should you get if you decide to get a policy? And so we go through the practice of doing that, and this is how it's done. So the dual income method is to estimate your insurance needs based on this formula. Your insurance need under this method is equal to 1/2 of your debts plus funeral cost. Don't forget funeral costs. 1/2 of your debts plus funeral costs. In other words, you take your debt positions and you take half of it, half of your debt, and you go from there. Okay, so all you have to do is list them. Okay, you list what's 1/2 of your mortgage. That's $40,000. What's 1/2 of your car loan? $7,500. And so all you do is you take half of that, total them up, and then add in the $10,000 or whatever you think your funeral costs. Now, this is a weirdo. You'd be surprised if you're 25, 30 years old, you can go to a funeral home, you can go to online, and you can either purchase a funeral well in advance, or you can get an idea what it's going to be in the future should you die and for a funeral. Now, most people these days, and I'll be honest with you, now it depends on your family and the culture of your family, but the majority of people these days are cremated. All right, they're cremated. And what is the cost of doing that? The cost of cremation, a lot of cost, but they're about 20% less than the cost of getting buried in a cemetery. So I know this is tough. What morbid thinking is this? But again, if you have a spouse, you have a wife, you have a husband, and you need to take care of this should somebody die, trust me, I've had family members die, and the last thing you want to think about is funeral arrangements when somebody's dead. That's the last thing. And having these, at least know about these well in advance, is going to help you. So half of the personal debts. I can't remember what they were. Let me see. Personal debts were 5,000. All right. Half of the personal debts, 2,500. Personal debts could be your college loan, could be your school loan. Half of the credit card debts, that's $2,000. And the funeral expenses. Again, these can be quite steep, and some of you probably already are aware of that. All right. Well, you total all those up. Oop, nice spelling, Mr. Hassey. You total all those up, and your insurance need is equal to $62,000. Seems kind of low, doesn't it? Well, that's why the dual income method appeals to a lot of families, a lot of people, because it just covers expenses. It doesn't cover lost income. I'll say that again. The difference between the easy method that we did in question 1 and the DINK method, the dual income method that we did in question 2, question 2 covers expenses of dying. Question 1 covers lost income. That's a key point. Some people, like Professor Hassey, I shouldn't be telling you this, combine them into one policy. let's say I have in question one, my answer was roughly 200,000. And also in the DINK method, in question two, I need 62,000. Then sometimes I get $262,000 of life insurance. Some people combine them, some people don't. But that's basically the driver behind insurance, life insurance, death reimbursement for people. Lost income in question one, expenses that you're responsible for in question two. And some people even just add up the whole amount of the debt, total up all your debts plus funeral costs to come up with your insurance need. We have a question. The reason why they take half in that, Julio, why you only take half of it is because it's based on insurance estimates and actuarial tables. If one person dies in a family, the other person still is working and can meet those costs with their income. That's why that's the assumption there. One person dies, the other person gets still has income coming in. It still can handle the responsibilities. Now, in some families, and most families like my family, if I died, I'm just going to add all my debts to the policy of what I'm getting, so my wife or whoever is in my beneficiary doesn't have to worry about anything. They can plant me, they can pay off the expenses, especially the mortgage, and they get some income into the future based on my income at my death. Again, it's a combination, but also, Julio, it's a lot based on students, it's a lot based on what you can afford. You might not be able to pay for an insurance policy that covers loss of income and all your debts. You might have to take a portion of those. And that's another reason why the half of debts is used in question two, because hopefully it makes it more affordable for families to get some type of risk insurance in case somebody dies. Okay. So again, this looks pretty simple, pretty easy, but basically that's what is used by insurance brokers and people like you and I who are trying to determine what is our insurance benefits into the future. All right, if I'm going to base it on lost income, or if I'm going to base on expenses or debts, all right? And at the same time, maybe I combine or modify these in whatever way that fits into my affordability of insurance. That's important. Because yes, you can come up with all these numbers about what the value of your life is based on income or debts, but at the same time, can you afford that insurance? Because again, you're spending on other expenses now in your life. Now you tack on an expense like insurance, which you're not going to get the benefit of unless you die. That's a different situation. So these are the two areas I'd like you to concentrate on as far as just if somebody asks you the question, preferably Mr. Hassey, how much insurance do you need if you decide to just based on your income levels? It's called the easy method. How much insurance am I going to need if I have a responsibility of a family, I'm married or have a partner? How much insurance do I need if I decide to use the dual income method? Question number two. So be aware of these. These also, keep these in your back pocket, because when you do start looking at life insurance, these can be the base. It doesn't mean you're going to follow these exactly, but these can be the base on determining the risk of your death, the risk of your death. So that's important. I'm going to save this. Okay. So let's end that. There we go. All right. There. Oh, Charlie's here. Nice to see you, Charlie. Nice lid today. Good hat. Riley, what are you standing next to? What is that sculpture? Tell me. Riley, wake up. Mr. Klein.
It's John Wooden.
What is it?
John Wooden.
John Wooden. Very good. Nice picture. Okay, let's get back to work here. All right. Okay. So now we know how much, or now we know how to estimate how much insurance we should get. All right. Now we have to determine, and we talked about this on Monday, what type of insurance can we afford? What type of insurance can we afford? Once we determine by whatever method we choose, what is the risk of to our families, to our beneficiaries, to our partners, wives, husbands, family, whatever. What is the risk should we die? Well, now we've looked at methods of putting a dollar figure on that risk, which seems kind of cold, but it's true, a dollar figure on that. Then what type of policy can we afford to get? And that's what we talked about on Monday. Two basic types of life insurance. Term, which just covers a dollar amount that your family gets when you die, and whole life policy or universal life, which gives you also a check when you die, but at the same time, the premiums that you put into that policy during the course of your lifetime are treated as an investment of which you can pull money out of, and at the same time, get an annuity payment. Once you reach a certain age, they'll pay you a certain amount a month as a return on that investment that it has made over time. So that's the next step, is what type of insurance can I afford? All right. And also, as we talked about on Monday, what type of extra things do I need? Do I need, if I'm in a high risk job, if I have additional things? For example, a member of my family has had a challenged son. In other words, somebody who needed care for all their lives. All right. And if once their parents died, who was going to take care of this child once they're dead? So at the same time, they added that cost of making sure their son is taken care of once they pass away, and it did happen. That's exactly what happened, and they had a waiver or policy or a chapter in their policy, an option in their policy to take care of that specific individual case in their life planning, life insurance planning. So that's something to think about. What type of planning do you need to make sure you're taken care of? All right. And then finally, if you decide to invest in a whole life or universal life policy, you're going to get an annuity, a payback over that policy over a certain period of your life. For example, a lot of annuity life insurance coverage starts paying you when you turn 62. You turn 62, your life insurance company starts giving you a check every month. You still have the life insurance, but all the money you put in during that time is now going to be paid back, that gain and return on that investment over your life. All right, that's called an annuity. When you set that up, how much money do you want at 62 or at 65 to be paid out of your policy? That annuity, that depends on the premiums that you put in and how you set that all up. So that's the important topics that we talked about on Monday and on today about Chapter 10, life insurance. Now next week, I think next week for a lot of you, in the next couple of weeks, will probably be a little bit more of a benefit for some of you, because we start talking about investing. Where do we put the money? Where is the money invested that we put in premiums? Where do we start putting our loose cash, our free cash flow, I guess you could say, to use a finance term? Where do we start investing in to get a return later on in life? A lot of this is going to relate to your portfolio that you have selected, but also where do we put investing later on in our life, and where do we have to do that? All right. So one of the key things I want to talk about in our last few minutes here today is, for some of you who came on late, make sure you check the project paper source references that I've posted under the writing assignment file folder in Blackboard. Make sure you take a look at that as a way of researching and getting some information for your paper. A week from today, we have, and let me bring this up to remind you. A week from today, we have examination number 2. It covers chapters 7 through 11. 11 we will talk about on Monday. It's called investing. And then that will be posted on Wednesday, and you have it due Sunday, April 26th, just so you can plan accordingly. We also have next week, on a week from today, Paul Boychuk will be sitting in on our class for a few minutes, talking about career services at College of Business and Public Management and career services for all the university. If any of you have any questions or wondering, I know one of the comments I've got from a lot of students in the last week about one of the downers of being online and off campus and is the career day has been canceled, and they were looking forward to that career day on campus where they can meet with people, with corporations, with companies looking for people, or just do some research about different types of opportunities in the market. That is now long gone, and so Mr. Boychuk perhaps can answer about what is going to make up that loss of a career day for many of our students. So that's something we could talk to him about a week from today. So that's those are things that are coming down the pike. And then also another thing to remember is, and we talked about this on Monday, is your email that was sent to you over the weekend, last weekend, about doing a evaluation of the course and the online aspects of this course up to this time, get some feedback to the university and to me, even though I won't see this until the course is over, but get you some feedback of how you are doing, how's this platform, how's it working out for all of you. And Caitlin, I saw your video on Instagram last night about being a college ambassador and talking about the university. That was very nicely done, Caitlin. Nice job.
No.
I don't want to embarrass you by that, but that was a very nice job. I saw that on Instagram last night.
Thank you.
Very nice. That was well done. And I think as I saw in my travels last night on the social media, I see that Chapman is the highlighted college today on SCIAC on Instagram. I'm going to pay no attention to that. Yes, exactly. You can tell Chapman to go jump in the lake. But I'm looking forward to whatever day's coming up for our SCIAC campus of the week to be the University of Laverne. So let's see what that comes down the pike in the next couple of days. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on this Wednesday, tax day, April 15th? Oh, we have a chat. You're right, Devin, Chapman sucks, and I can get away with saying that. Most faculty members should not say that, but yes, Chapman does suck. I do have some friends who teach at Chapman, but they still suck, and I tell them that every time I see them, so there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you, Devin. All right, any other comments or questions about our course up to this time? Take a look at those resource sources that I've given you about your paper. Those are good, fairly easy to access, fairly good places to go, and take a look at those. Those will be giving you good ideas and good other places to go to in doing your paper. Also, do not forget, even though we're not on campus, the Wilson Library, you still have access to all the materials, all the information, all the questions. The library staff is still working and online. And if you have any issues or any ways of not getting information, you can use the library staff. They're still working. They're still getting paid, for now anyways. And so that's available to you guys in doing any papers for any of your classes that you're working on. So you're all pretty quiet today. Now, one of the things I'm going to work on next week is I want all these people like Gabriel and Danny who never show your faces to start showing your faces a little bit more. I don't know if it's because it's the early morning, but I always have Brandon, I always have Julio, I always have Tyler, which I'd rather not. I always have Carly and Charlie and Aaron always showing me your faces. And Riley gives me a picture with John Wooden that doesn't show Riley, but that's okay. At least he shows something. But never show me, I never can see your pictures, faces. There's Danny. Danny, what's the deal with NASA behind me? Are you in the space shuttle or what's going on here?
You know, I really wish I was, but not really.
Okay.
Let's see what else I got. Here we go. This is better.
Oh, the virtual background. Get that off there. That's cornier than crap. Get that out of there. That's ridiculous. All right, thank you. I just whatever. Okay, but start. Let me see some of you. I know it's 8 in the morning, and probably you don't think you're in the best of light. But look at me. I got up 5 minutes before class, and look at me. I'm in a beautiful office. I got a nice shirt on. It's pressed. It's clean. My hair's combed. I shaved. Let's go here. There's Ashton. All right. See, now we're starting. Jake, who's the dude next to you, Jake? Tell him to get the hell out of there. He's not in this class.
Get the hell out of here.
If he's gonna sit in on class, I want some money out of this. All right. Who is that guy? Jake, who is that
Logan.
guy?
He said he's trying to learn.
He's trying, that's a stretch. All right, that's good.
Business,
Logan.
trying to learn.
All right,
He's
Logan.
adding a minor in business.
All right, well, it's a very minor in business, I assure you. All right, well, tell Logan thank you. So next week, I'm going to put the pressure on you. Roy, Bernice, Justin, Ivan, start showing your mugs. I want to see you guys. I miss you. I got to see you. Even if it's just for a couple minutes at the end of the class, I need to see you. It's important. And also, I think your fellow students need to see you. Now, if you don't, there will be consequences. I don't know what those consequences. Logan, will you settle down? You're driving me nuts walking back and forth. All right. Anything else? Ashton, you all right? Good. Impressive room. Very nice. Yeah, I know why a lot of you don't come online because you're afraid I'll tease you or make fun of wherever you are. That will not happen. There's Justin. Good job, Justin. I will not tease you. I only tease the people I can get away with teasing, like Jake. I can't tease everybody, but I can tease certain people. Justin, good to see you, buddy. All right. That's it for today. Again, no graded work this week. Chapter 11 next week. Might be a good time, depending on your workload, is to begin maybe taking a look at those resources for your questions that I posted. Don't have to actually start writing, but start putting together and knowing where you can go and get information. And maybe start thinking about questions to Mr. Boychuk next Wednesday. We'll talk about investments. And also, some of you, this is a crazy time for investments. Think about this. Think about some questions you might have about investing in today's markets. Investing, should I buy stock today when the International Monetary Fund says we're going to have a near depression over the next 6 months? Should I be buying stock today if the stock market this morning, last time I checked, was down 600 points? So what should I do about my investing today going forward into the future? Maybe the best investment you can make today is investing in yourself, making sure that you're ready to tackle the world that's going to be changing and you're prepared to do that. That's probably one of the best investments you can do today, and we'll talk about that next week. So I'm done. I got another hour, and then I have another class. So you guys take care. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Stay out of trouble, and we'll see you all next Monday. Thanks, guys. Adios.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, Chris. Show your mug next time, Chris.
All right.
Thank you.
I would,
Bernice, but go ahead.
I'm not wearing a shirt, so.
You're not wearing a shirt? Well, then thank God you're not on camera. I don't want to see that. Well, can't you put on a shirt in the morning? Jake at least put on a shirt. He didn't comb his hair, but he put on a shirt at least.
It's a lot more comfy.
All right. Well, all right. Okay. That's kind of a scary thought. Personal finance with no shirt on. I might have to have some aspirin after that one. All right, guys. Take care.
All right. See you in an hour, Professor.
See you, Chris.
Mr. Hasse, can I ask where my video was posted? I didn't know where they were going to put it.
There's an Instagram thing by the University of Laverne. They post like daily on Instagram, and it's ULV Leos or the alumni site or something.
Oh, cool.
So it was posted last night, and I saw it was very well done. And you were the star. You were on it more than any other student, and you said the goodbye and everything. So it was very well done, and I felt proud. Caitlin was a student of mine. I felt very honored that they selected you to be one of the leaders of this message. So it's on the Insta. If you just go to University of Laverne and the Instagram or Leo's or something, you'll see it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hasse.
All right. See ya. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jared and Lucas, what's up with you guys? Nope. Nothing? Lucas. Mr. Benstead, Mr. Taylor, I'm going to be signing off. See you guys. Adios.